There we go. In accordance with the open meeting law, the meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. And of course, we're here on Zoom, and if anybody is joining us from that location, as William Lloyd is, one of the members of the commission, your participation is encouraged as a member of the public. And we have an agenda that's been posted, and we hopefully will cover all the items on the agenda and maybe a few that weren't on the agenda. So with that, we don't have any members of the public here at the Ritter Building. I don't see anybody online. So let's get to the minutes approval. I did send out the 8 August 2023 meeting minutes for everyone to review. And then William, you just sent us the minutes for 12 December. Richard or William, one thing I'd like to mention is that I noticed that there were a few typos in the meeting minutes. So I would make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 12th and 8 August with the provision that you go back and do one more quick review on those meeting minutes. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right. All those in favor of approving the two sets of meeting minutes, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, good. Correspondence, don't have anything to report, other than, apparently the, town has, an annual reporting requirement, in addition to the select board having an annual, reporting requirement. And I think I mentioned at our meeting in December that I had filled out a report for the calendar year, 2023, and submitted that the select board. I got a notification from Elaine Peterson that we have to do a fiscal year annual report. And from 1 July 2022 to 30 June of 2023, which is kind of awkward since I wasn't the chair for those first 6 months of the year, of the calendar year. Excuse me, I wasn't chair at all during that period of time. And didn't happen until the 1st of July 2023. So I will go and meet the requirement by reviewing the meeting minutes of that period of time. Probably the most notable thing that was that occurred during that time frame was our review and discussions over the Ritter Building windows, which ultimately led to an override of the town's decision at the special town meeting in November 2. And then we had a couple other CTAs that we looked at that I'll report on. So that's it for correspondence. Current business. We really need to find a new commission member. And I'm not sure how we go about doing that. You know, the town posts notifications periodically online, and they mention it, I think, but we're not getting any real response. One of the things that I was considering was to reach out to a relatively young town citizen. She's been participating in the master plan steering committee meetings, and she lives on Mass Avenue. She's a member of the Green Communities Committee. I was gonna, because she seems to be so engaged in town business, I was thinking about sending her an email saying, would you consider joining the APDC? So if there's no objections, I'll reach out to her and see what her preferences are. Any thoughts about that, Richard? Or
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. The one thing that's good to have is the 5 members, so we can, like tonight, we do have a quorum. But, this would have been a quorum given what the weather was.
Yeah.
Okay, so next item is 50 Main Street, and Richard asked me to put that on. Hey, we actually have a full commission meeting now.
Whoa.
Dave, welcome. Nathan, we approved the meeting minutes from 12 December and 8 August. That's the only vote that we've taken. I just mentioned that I was going to reach out to a young person who's on the Green Committee's interested in becoming a member of APDC.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. so we're at the point where it says 50 Main Street, Old Methodist Church, and Richard, you asked me to put that on there. And we've been talking about this, over the last couple of meetings, so your thoughts?
Continues to deteriorate noticeably.
Yes.
Do you wanna go talk to the owners?
Can invite him to the meeting
Yeah.
and talk about it.
You don't have to meet, you can talk to them there, whatever works.
You know the individuals, you know?
Yeah, I do, I did talk to him before. I can follow up with him again, if that helps.
I mean, I think it's clearly a perfect example of demolition by neglect. And, you know, they may have financial concerns, financial issues that are preventing them. That's a pretty key piece of the district.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I think, so Nathan, you'll take that as an action item to invite into our meeting?
Yeah,
Okay. Or if he wants us to meet with them, I'm more than willing to meet with him as
Okay.
well. But I would prefer that he come to the meeting, that way they're gonna become part of the public record.
okay, let me talk to him and see where that goes. That sounds good.
All right, next item on the agenda is old business, master plan. There is a new, meeting scheduled for the Lunenburg Adult Activity Center. The meeting, there's a single meeting presentation that's gonna be held, at either 4 to 6 or 6:30 to 8:30 on, February. I don't have it on the notes, hold on. I have the time, I don't have the date, but I do know the date. So hold on, let me get that off my calendar. The master plan group will be meeting at the Lunenburg Senior Center or Adult Activity Center on the 1st of February. Either 4 to 6 or 6:30 to 8:30. And they're gonna be going over for all of the approaches that they're taking with regards to the master plan. An observation that I made, I attended the 4 January meeting in via Zoom. I did watch the December meeting and what was interesting is they were trying to find a place to have this meeting. The first time meeting the master plan was at Smokestacks. And the second meeting, there was a lot of debate about where to have the meeting. And what was really interesting is the consultant kind of pushed, well, maybe we should have it at TC Passios, or maybe we should have it at Turkey Hill, because there's been a lot of discussion about those buildings, you know, what's the future of those buildings gonna be with regards to, there's been a lot of discussion about demolition, at least portions of the building. And the same for Turkey Hill, not necessarily demolition, but abandon that as a school, build a new school, and then figure out what to do with it. So I thought it was interesting that the consultant was saying, you know, maybe we should have these meetings in places that are, people can see what's going on in these buildings. And in particular, the TC Passios, they didn't have a place for them to meet because places, you know, which is kind of ironic that, you know, like they said, well, can we have it in the cafeteria? And someone says, well, you know, the food pantry's in there, and that would require them to have to kind of, you know, do their business a little bit differently. And it's like, you know, this is a demonstration that building is being used, you know, much, I think that, you know, we've seen it stare down, you know, let's move on. Another building. And that's, so, they decided that they would have the meeting at the Adult Activity Center, which is a building which has not been discussed as, you know, a candidate for either demolition or reuse, but that's where they're headed. Okay, the next item on the agenda is something that I wanted to, this is gonna be the bulk of our meeting discussion tonight. Unfortunately, when I don't don't have these forms with me on my computer, because my computer's at home.
I can send it to him.
Okay, but I haven't distributed these to you. So. At the last meeting we had, it dawned on me that, we have a bylaw and we have a set of guidelines. And guidelines don't necessarily match up. In particular, we have this thing called, an application for a certificate to alter. And so many of the projects that I've seen in a very short period of time that I've been here, don't really require the applicant to engage and submit a CTA. But they use the CTA to talk about what work they're gonna do. So one of the things that, I want to propose and get your feedback on, and then I will distribute these Word files when we get home. If we take the next step on this, is that I want to create kind of an interim form. And for the lack of, I went through the building commission documentation. And I went through zoning boards, the zoning board of appeals documentation. And the one form that I saw is that kind of made sense to me. This is for the ZBA, a form of intent, like tell us what you want to do. And then from that point, it leads into many different steps of a formal process with regards to getting an appeal heard and either approved or disapproved. So I looked at the bylaw, and the bylaw 113-7 says that it kind of defines a step of minor alteration versus substantial alteration. And sometimes minor alteration leads to a classification of work that needs a binding review. The work is more complex than what the property owner originally thought. So what I'm going to propose is that we, focusing on section 113-7 and 113-8, that we propose creating a new form. And I've shared this form with you, basically to say, tell us what you want to do. And then if you got some photos, or you feel free to give that to us. And then we would remind them or reinforce with them that, we're here for an administrative review if they'd like to do that. And then after we get this form, we would make a determination that we have enough information to say the work is exempt from a binding review. Or in some cases, we've been requests for work that really follows under routine maintenance and really didn't even need a submittal from the property owner. Most notably, the replacement of asphalt shingles with asphalt shingles at the house not too far from here on Mass Avenue. So what we would see is, I think the bulk of the requests coming in could be described on this single page, and then we would get back to them and say, thumbs up, go ahead, or wait, it's a little more complicated than what you might think it is, and this is really going to require a binding review. And then we would have them then step off into the process of submitting the certificate to alter. When I look at the certificates to alter in my short time, they're really not filled out correctly. And one of the reasons why they're not filled out is because the work is minor in nature. The alterations are minor in nature. And, so the end result is, I think we've been violating the ground rules of the guidelines, with the documentation that we have. So this would give us an interim step that I think would satisfy the needs of most property owners. owners. For those individuals who have substantial work, on a facility, that they would then just go right to the application for a certificate to alter.
Mhm.
So the, the guidelines would be changed, and one of the things that I'm gonna propose is that we reduce the amount of verbiage that's in the guide. I think that, like, looking at from the first page to about 18, those are things that kind of gives the homeowner or the property owner an idea of what historic facilities are and what's our guide to saying yes or no to substantial alterations. And in some cases, depending on how much work the owner wants to do, it gives them an idea of what are the things that are critical for a small piece of work, like replacing windows. So we would basically keep, like the first 18 pages intact, maybe make a few changes, just to kind of clean up some of the language. But then insert at page 20, this determination of applicability. And in this next page, I describe what that paragraph would look like. And then it basically says, property owners and repairs can choose to ask for a determination of applicability. And I talk about the form and how to submit the form. And I says the APDC will provide a response on the form submittal no later than 3 days after our next scheduled meeting, the date when the form was submitted to us. So for example, if someone gave us a form tomorrow, we would give them an answer on that form 3 days meeting, which I think is like the 12th or, let's see, what is it? It's 13th February. So we would give them an answer at that point in time. Now, that's not to, avoid or prevent someone from still asking for an administrative review or from saying, no, I already know this work is pretty complicated. I want to tear down, a section of my building, or I want to dramatically change the building that's going to require a certificate to alter. So then we pick up the language of the guidelines. It says, here's how you fill out the certificate to alter. Now, the other piece that I want to do is I want to change that whole submittal process to being electronic. We'll give them the opportunity, if they want to print paper and bring it in here to the land use department, that they can still do that. But the primary way of doing this is to say, send us your documentation via, electronic format. And then the other thing that I've asked the question, I don't have an answer yet, is do we really need to collect a fee? Since I've been here, I've not seen anybody write out a check, and now maybe they do, and we're just not aware of it. But the one thing that I know is that there is no requirement for fees in the bylaw. There is figures in the guidelines, $25 for the initial application, and then $125 for binding review. So I've asked the question of, can we waive those? Why do we have to include that?
Yeah, I mean, who put them in the guidelines? The guidelines were created by the.
By us,
FCC.
commission.
Yeah, I mean, it seems counterproductive, like we want to get people to come before us for review. And we're doing something that's going to deter that.
I think that was put in because it was utilizing the secretary and land use office, taking away from time.
Well, that's part of her job. I mean,
Yeah.
just,
And
we're already
was it
paying her.
part of her job?
Well, if it's not, then she shouldn't be involved at all.
No, it is, what's interesting is the bylaw says nothing about submitting paperwork to the land use bylaw.
Right, we had to have somebody facilitate it, but we didn't have anybody to handle that.
But the guideline, the bylaw does say it has to be submitted to the town clerk.
The town clerk that's what she gets paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So that's the other thing that I think that we, personally, it should be one place that you drop this paperwork. It's either the town clerk or the land use department. Now, if it's electronic, you could do both. you know, no effort.
Where does it have to end up ultimately? I'm assuming it goes to the town clerk to sort of certify the
Yeah.
receipt of it, right?
Yeah,
Does it ever have to go to land use?
If it's electronic, I'd say no.
I mean, in any, forgetting about the process, but does the application for any reason need to end up at the land use secretary's desk?
Is it?
Don't know how that ended up like that.
I mean, maybe the town clerk said, oh, I'll certify, but I won't notify you. that it's the only thing I can think of. The clerk should notify us, you know, if something comes in. So I agree, it should streamline it, just go one
One
point.
spot.
Yeah, and I like the electronic idea a lot. I think that's great. I would also say, I mean, I think it's fair, you know, within 3 days after our next meeting, I think it would be cool. I think a challenge I would put to us is, can we figure out a way to respond kind of, and I think we've done a good job with this, with some responding on demand. Like we have these ones that don't require a certificate to alter, you know,
Right.
like you've gotten them, you've shopped it around. And we've kind of, you know, it's tricky because open meeting law, but I think if you shop it to us and it's all point to point, like, you know, there's no discuss. So if there's no discussion, I think two of us are allowed to meet, any two of us, two board members are allowed to communicate at a given time outside of the public meeting. But if it's you, just, you're allowed to email us, I think, and then if it's just like us replying to you, and then you say, okay, I've heard from everybody, I think that's probably okay, as long as we document it. I don't know, that'd be a good thing to run by town council is what procedure can we use to
Streamline this.
streamline this and take, just approve these things, you know, outside of public.
I think that's gonna be trickier than it should be, Nathan. You know, like, I had no problem with that roof one, because I felt like it really met the criteria associated with routine maintenance.
Sure.
And hence, it wasn't anything that was ever gonna lead to a CTA, even though they had felt, once again,
Sure.
they had completed the CTA.
Right.
You know, so that's another example of, you know, it was already kind of like out of control, like the person didn't have to really send us a CTA. So I think that 3 days, like in some cases, like if somebody sends it, if somebody would have sent us one last week, you know, sent us this form last week, we can make the determination today.
It's a summer,
Yeah,
it's June,
yeah.
you want to replace your roof over the weekend? We just used to,
Mhm.
don't want to wait until a month to replace your roof.
If we can figure out a way to do it and stay compliant with open meeting law, I'm more than willing to do that. You know, like, for example, I actually approached Michael Ray Jeffries today and said, do I have to go down there? Can we just do this as a Zoom meeting? And he goes, you have to go and post a notice on the door with the Zoom link that says your meeting is only gonna be a Zoom. With that, it was like, okay, so I'm coming down here to post a, you know, sign on the door, I'm just coming down for the meeting. And so I think that the open meeting law is the challenge there, you know,
Yeah.
not our willingness. to
No, I
work.
understand. I wonder if there's a way to do it to make it more administrative though, like say, something like. I don't know where we're at with incorporating the building inspector and the permitting process.
Mhm.
It's like. Are we able to tie this to the permitting process?
Not the way the building permit process is set up today,
Because,
because it's all electronic and it launches with, a certain process that would be outside of what we're doing here. Now, what we would have to do is somehow, some way, get into the building permit porthole in order to let that.
oh, that'd be
that
perfect.
form-
Just add to the form, say, are you in this home in the historic district, or figure out from the address if it is or not. And then just add these couple extra questions. They've already filled out most of this stuff for the permit.
I will pursue that.
Okay,
will
because
proceed.
then that would be
Yeah.
like, I mean, and here's the thing, so to get out around, to not have to deal with open meeting. If they aren't applying for a certificate to alter, or they're not applying for requesting an administrator. review. They just, easy and straightforward. And if the building inspector thinks it's straightforward, and they reach out to the chair of APDC, and the chair of the APDC says, I agree, then it moves forward and is reported to the membership here. But if it, if you, there's something that you don't like or whatever, then you say, no, sorry, this has to go.
I will explore whether we can,
Okay,
I mean, I think the easiest way to do this would be, because building inspector's got a lot of different, building commissioner has a lot of different things on his plate. I think the easiest way to do this is, can we review electronically and approve it electronically?
just without even consulting each other, just each review it independently.
Yeah.
And then look at the results.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think that would be one way to do it. And then if someone wants to see some more, then the flag's been raised, that we have to have a discussion, I mean, in
Yeah,
order
or something.
in order to completely evaluate the project and fill out this form.
Okay.
I mean, the other thing that I think,
When you have to vote to approve that,
Approve what?
whatever's being offered to you. If we're looking at it individually and saying, and then each individual says, well, this doesn't apply. There has to be a public vote on that, doesn't it?
Depends on what the guidelines say. You know, if the guideline says no one on the committee thinks it needs to be reviewed. And the software can probably, you know, I don't know if the software has approval or whatever, or if we just do it by email or what have you, but I don't know. It's
Yeah, so on the historical commission, so we get a demo application and I go look at it and, it doesn't, the house is more modern and meets the rules, so I just handle that myself,
Mhm.
right, it doesn't apply, so I tell the building inspector it doesn't apply.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, like, he could do that, or we could all collectively, you know, have a consensus process where we all review it more. I don't really care, I'd be the chair to fast track things that, you know, were pretty clearly didn't require us to look at, and, you know, if he wanted our opinion, I would be okay with him asking it or whatever.
I think, let me talk to, I think this is actually a question for town council.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, 100%, we can't, yeah, open meeting laws.
It's tricky.
It's, yeah.
It's tricky, and I don't wanna, you know, do something and then we find ourselves in trouble because we violated the open meeting law.
Yeah, no, we
We wanna,
don't.
we wanna make this process work.
Right.
Yeah.
And there
Okay,
could,
so.
there could be some kind of middle ground where, because we have to post our agenda, we have to post our minutes on the town site. If we got one of these, say halfway between one of our meetings, if we could post a notice there that said we received this, and then we post our notes there, so it's, anybody can see it in town. And then they have the duration, 4 or 5 days, 7 days, whatever that duration is. If somebody wants to go in and say, no, I want to talk about this, maybe that's a way to kind of play the middle ground where it is electronic, but it's still open to everybody.
Yeah, and the agenda gets posted electronically, but it also gets on the wall outside of town hall too, you know, so that may be the other way of doing it.
Oh, God. Well, it's not, no.
What was that?
Yeah, no, just nothing. It's such an archaic law at this point, but yeah.
It is what it is, Nathan. Okay, so, is there any objections? Like, the one thing that I wanna do is I wanna get rid of that flow chart that's in the guidelines. The other thing is, the guidelines is attached to it, the bylaw itself, and that needs to go too. That needs to be separated, because that changes. Like, the one that's on there is not the most current bylaw. You know, so if somebody picked up the guidelines and says, oh, I'm gonna do this just the way it says, they're gonna miss pieces of changes that have been made to, the bylaw since it was first established. of the guidelines. It's gonna be shorter, and simpler. I think that, you know, the section that deals with applying for the certificate to alter, everything that's in here, you know, from like page 20 to page 25, all of that's still going to apply for substantial alteration. And the only thing that's gonna really change in the language here is how that information is gonna be delivered. And, you know, now, I was hoping, I have to get a Word file document from somebody here in town hall or in the land use department, because the only thing that's online is a PDF. And when I convert the PDF to Word file, that's what it looks like. So I gotta get a Word file in order to do the editing. Now, one of the issues here is that, I wanna get for you to review, so that when we come in February, we can say, this is what the design guidelines are gonna look like. Because once we approve those, they then have to go to the select board for, I forget how many days before it's something that we could implement. And I don't wanna send out the notification to the town residents who are in the APD anything until we have the, so, I mean, and I committed to having that notification out in the first quarter of the year, so. We'll have, you know, like, there's gonna be a fair amount of speed required here to get that done, so. So everyone's comfortable with adding a new form to the process, which hopefully will take 95% of all of the towns, all the property owners' actions.
Yep.
Shortening guys, and then figuring out a way to, take the form and approve it as fast as possible,
Yeah,
so.
this is good because it kind of takes a chunk of administrative review. We've had a hard time getting, in spite of asking people to come, including the town a dozen times, nobody ever comes for administrative confusion when meeting happens. It's just because there was no administrative review. Yeah, this will just solidify a lot of that, whereas administrative review is kind of a mental thing. This brings it down to earth and makes people look at it
Right.
as a possibility that they do need to come in person, or this would probably take a lot of that up where they wouldn't need to come in person. The forms.
Yeah, you know, and what's interesting, Richard, is that the requirement for administrative review, or the opportunity for administrative review, it's actually in the bylaw. It's in that section,
Yeah.
you know, 113-7 specifically says, you know, request an administrative review. And it says it can be requested, even in the bylaw, it says it can be requested electronically.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's I think a critical piece for us to take the complicated projects, path that's easier for the applicant, you know, and I think that's one of the things that I hope that will come out of this, is to say, you know, the simple stuff, we're gonna give you an answer right away. The more complicated stuff, let's sit down together and do this, you know, and then everybody will be satisfied with the end product, you know?
Yeah, rather than having to fill out this massive form
Yeah,
before you get the review, just start the process, come on in, whatever, yeah.
yeah. And, eliminate the fees, you know?
Yeah, I support that.
Okay, all right, so I will proceed with this, and hopefully, we'll get this done. I'll send out, the forms to you tonight or tomorrow, and then, I'll see how quick I can get a Word file from Aubrey. There's an Ann Aubrey. To be able to do the editing on the guidelines. All right, any other comments about the changes in the process? We're coming to a close here.
So the public brochure, you never got anything from Cullen on?
No, Colin didn't have anything. I asked the question. He said he didn't have anything that he wanted to share with me,
Alright.
so. You know, I had drafted something for the brochure And once again, I don't wanna send the brochure out until we have this process resolved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I have a copy of what he had produced.
Okay,
And also had a copy from one or two other towns of what they had produced. So I'll see if I can take those out and bring them to you.
okay. All right, any other comments? William, anything?
Nope.
Dave?
The historical commission is applying for a grant to hire a consultant to do a survey on the houses from the Cyrus Kilburn map, plus other houses in the other houses. I think the grant would cover up to 60 houses, maybe more. Which Mass Historic is required communities have a survey of the historic resources. So the town approved half the money for the grants, a matching grant, so we're applying for that. And the one of the properties we talked about having documented would be the Ritter Building. So that could be allowed to once it's surveyed, be ready to be nominated for the National Historic Register. As one of the few buildings when the district was formed. The building wasn't of age at that time, so it wasn't included with all the houses in the town hall and the other buildings, so.
What's this, Cyrus Kilborn, man? What
And
is that?
Cyrus Kilburn in the 1833, the town commissioned a map of the houses in town at that time. And it's in the red book, the map that's in the red book, that's
Okay.
the Cyrus Kilburn map.
Okay,
The copper plate is a big copper plate that he engraved and printed the maps from, that's at the Historical Society. And so we are documenting the existing houses that are on that.
the houses are still remaining,
We don't know exactly.
okay,
I know that maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 of them have met their demise during my time at the Historical Commission. It was before demo delay, and that's what led to demo delay. We were losing a lot of historic homes in the town, so.
so you just. Okay, anything else? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn and, we'll have our next meeting on the 13th of February, 7:30. Work for everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Not said.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so our meeting is concluded. Thank you very much, Lynn, for joining us by Zoom, and, we'll see everybody.
It's
on the 13th.
definitely weird being on this side of it.
That-
I said it's definitely weird being on this side of the camera.
Yeah. Okay, all
All
right.
right, gentlemen, have a good night.
You too.
You too.
Bye. All right, so we're done there.